So it is Thursday, and it's 7 o'clock here on a very dreary, rainy day in London. Bright morning in San Francisco, I hope. And it's time for the really big class. And today we have Ian Swensen joining us from San Francisco. And I've been excited about this class since I had the idea. I knew I wanted to ask Ian. And it's such a relief to not be teaching today. Last week I was completely stressed about this, and today I just get to sit back and listen and enjoy. But first I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ian, and as I've been doing, sort of introducing how we met. And Ian, I don't know if you remember when we met. I certainly do. It was at the Eastman School of Music, and let's see, I was having a lesson with Don Weilerstein, and you walked into my lesson. And you were not a student at the school at the time. You had either left or graduated, I'm not sure. And you were there to borrow Don's Strad. And I remember thinking, who is this guy who gets to come in and borrow Don's Strad? That's so amazing that he gets to walk out of the studio with Mr. Weilerstein's Strad. And I think you were preparing for Naumburg, actually, maybe with the quartet, because I think you'd already won it as a solo violinist. So you had to then take the quartet to the same heights. And that was it. You walked in, took the violin, and walked out. I thought, who's this guy? And then maybe a few months later, the same sort of thing happened, except for you were returning the violin. But again, it was in my lesson. I thought, here he is again. Who's this guy? And then you showed up at a studio class and you played. And I thought, oh, that's who this guy is. He's this amazing violinist. And then I don't remember why we ended up sharing rides somewhere, and we got talking, and that was the start of our friendship. That would have been, I'm not going to say what year, my freshman year of conservatory. Another really memorable moment that I don't know if you remember, but I sure do, was in Chicago when you played a recital at Bynum Fushi. And I was there for some reason. I got to go to it. And you played a Mozart sonata and either Ravel or Debussy. I should remember, but I don't remember which it was, because I've heard you play both sonatas, I think, many times. And I remember talking to you afterwards about how much I loved your Mozart sonata. And you told me that, and I hope this is okay to share, you told me that some days the moon and the stars and the sun and the planets all aligned just right, and you felt like you could play the violin. And other days that just wasn't the case. And apparently that was one of the days where everything was in alignment. And the reason I bring this up is because I think one thing that I've always really admired and enjoyed about working with you and playing for you and playing with you is that you're fully, you own up to how difficult the violin is, and how some things just don't work, and some days it doesn't feel good, and other days it's like the easiest thing in the world. And I just really have always appreciated that, because I certainly have days where, and I remember this actually when I was studying with you, talking to you about how maybe I didn't want to play the violin because it was just hard. and you were like, yeah, it is hard. Maybe you don't want to play the violin. Anyway, that's a little bit about sort of where our relationship came from and has been. I've really enjoyed hearing your students in these classes. I think everyone has, and I can't wait to hear what you say to the ones we have today. So enough talking. Let's hear some Bruch. So our first performer is Charis. She's playing the introduction and first movement of Bruch's Scottish Fantasy.
Muted. Hi, Elise. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful playing. Beautiful. Um, do you want to play the beginning one more time just live? Because I
Sure.
just like it's just fun to see it actually live. Just play a little bit for me live and then we can talk. Yeah, just a
Okay.
little bit. Thanks. Great, great, great. That's nice live. Um, so talk to me for a second because we don't have very much time. Yeah. And
Okay.
and it's you have a beautiful lyric sense. There's a sense of the color and the contact. There's a beautiful vibrato. Maybe the vibrato could have more like change or pulsation. It feels like you need to have more grip on it somehow.
Okay. Yes, that makes
Sometimes
sense.
it's so fluid, right? But it doesn't even physically feel like. Sometimes you have enough of a feeling of I don't know hold
Okay.
of the violin, and sometimes it's because you have to like start things with the fourth finger,
Yeah.
whole passages, and then the double stopping sounds pretty good. It's tricky, you
Yeah.
know, to get it good. But it sounds quite good. There's just a few things that feel a little bit off color, but generally that's good. You can always just practice up and down the violin with half bows, sixths, like
Okay.
six, six, six. Joe Silverstein taught me that. Just very, very simple. And they don't have to be perfectly in tune. You just have to basically walk through thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, even unisons. Um, just slowly and easily in a medium dynamic, and it just relaxes the hands so that one doesn't just practice the passage.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that's sort of simple. Um, but I was wondering, how do you feel like when you have to develop? What I notice is that the way the rhythm feels. Of course, we're missing the piano, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we can't hear those low bass notes, like very, very low, like E flats, and the whole beginning of the piece is all
Yeah.
flatted, right? It's so many flats. Um, just how to get into sort of a rhythm and a sort of color and a sort of a deeper place where
Mhm.
you feel connected physically.
Mm.
So sometimes when you're playing, especially the second half, it looks like your right hip comes way up. I
Okay.
can't tell what it is. It looks like it's something where the rhythm doesn't isn't allowed to go through the body.
Mhm.
You're so much thinking about making a beautiful sound.
Right.
Um, and it is a beautiful sound. But if the rhythm doesn't sort of breathe or flow,
Mm.
that when you get to the cadences or important changes, where the bass line changes or the melody changes,
Mm.
the coloration is not specific or the timing is not specific enough for your system.
Okay.
So it feels a little like you gloss over it. So there's not enough to hold on to. So does that ring true for you? What I'm saying?
Yes, something that it's partly related to the vibrato as well is making the beat feel like it's full length. So it's
Right.
this weird feeling. I've had quite a few people comment on how I'm not rushing exactly, but there's something missing from the middle of the notes that just sort of
Feel
yeah.
Right. Feel the pulse or something. Now, some of it's just so recitativo, but
Mm, yeah.
you know, you know. I mean, it's interesting, and it's we can work on it physically too. But I mean, would you like to work? I don't know. Like, there's a few different things that I was thinking that might help. Um, one is the two areas that we would call maybe more musical or more oriented towards the score or the pulse would be basically conducting and singing. Do you
Okay.
do that? Do you conduct and sing?
I like singing. Not so have I have done some conducting, not with this so much, but the moving and trying to sing
Right,
one line with the other. Yeah.
right. I understand, but just a way to sort of integrate it into your music. since you
Yeah.
don't have a piano, right? And you don't have an orchestra, and we want to set it up so that the motion of it makes sense
Yes.
for
Yeah.
us, and then we can balance how physically that could actually work better. Like if something doesn't sound right, how we can
Why?
work with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
whether it's a vibrato or a shift or whatever, how to time it.
Hmm.
We want to start with that, and then we'll move on to things that are more about violin.
Sure.
So how would you do that? You would conduct. It's a grave. It's pretty slow.
Yeah.
So do you mind? I mean, just sing it for me. It just doesn't have to sound good. It's something that Don Weilerstein, who Cecil and I both studied with,
Yeah.
would ask me. He says, "Are you having?" We were working with the same student, and he said, "Did you work with him on singing and conducting?" And this boy had already won a big competition, but he was working with him, and it was still like. And I said, "Well, some." And he sort of looked at me like. I said, "Maybe I should have him do it more."
Okay. Yeah.
Nodded at me. So again, it's an unusual thing to do, maybe in a master class, and but but it might be useful to you as far as generating a clarity to how you feel the rhythm. Instead of
Yeah.
me saying I can't quite feel the rhythm, it's like, well, what does that mean? It matters how you internalize the rhythm
Okay.
for the
Yes.
timing. Let's just sing the beginning part for
Sure.
me.
Okay.
And conduct. I know. Just so we conducted like, what's your tempo? Like one, two. So bring your hand up so I can see your hand.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
One,
One.
two.
Okay.
Yeah, and just do it for yourself, and then just sing gently for yourself. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, that's
Okay. I
beautiful.
can sing through the instrument more.
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. So do you feel how when you're singing, you conduct, your body relaxes, like something,
Yeah.
you start to sort of just feel like you're in that
Yeah.
theater or something. Yeah, it's really actually really important. Um, Sometimes Don would also have me just gently walk when I was playing,
Yeah.
especially when there are
Yeah.
long things going on. Now, before you play, I just wanted to talk about one other aspect, all right? And it's because there's so many flats, right?
Yes.
So if we're just
Yes.
looking like if we're looking at a cycle of fifths, right?
Mhm.
That means like we have open strings like G, D, A, E, right?
Yeah.
So with so many flats, basically you keep going down in fifths.
Mm.
Right? The bass line in this thing is really, really low. Like when you play ya da 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 da, they play the low E flat, and then it resolves to F, the bar before B. That's all E flat. There's some color change before that, but mainly it's E flat.
Mm.
Um, I mean, and he writes a little hairpin for the violin, and then an espressivo marking after a bar and a half. So, I mean, it's interesting. Like, why wouldn't he write the espressivo marking at the beginning?
Oh. Yeah.
I don't know. And then he writes a morendo just right before the pianissimo, um, and it's triple pianissimo for the orchestra.
Mm.
So it's obviously some kind of haunted introduction, right? You have a beautiful voice, and if you sort of in a way don't listen to your violin playing so much just for an experiment. Again, I'm not trying to get you sounding like, oh, get you sounding great right now. I'm trying to give you experiments that you can look at that will drop you into a place where the working will be more
Yes.
um,
Intent.
fertile.
Yeah.
Fertile.
Okay.
It'll be beautiful for you. Now, um, because of all these flats and it goes so low, if we color them, so a B flat would be a relatively neutral flat, right? G flat will be more of an exotic flat, right? E flat somewhat more neutral, G flat, and then D flat is quite flatted, and then C flat's very flatted, right? And then
Yeah.
when you play C flat to B flat's actually quite bright as a flat goes compared to C flat. So sometimes by having something to focus on specifically, and maybe we have emotion from music, right?
Yeah.
And we're involved in that, and that's great. But to have more and more specifics about maybe why we feel something, that the C flat feels strangely dark,
Yeah.
and then the B flat seems somewhat brighter, and then we're sort of left hanging at the edge of a cliff, right?
Mm.
And so he keeps asking these questions, and so it's in a way like, so take a few breaths, and then I want to try one thing with you physically after that. But take a few breaths and just be conducting inside. You know, like the conductors before they go on stage are like this, right?
Mm.
They're like this. So you're letting your body energy, instead of think about performing, just follow the music. Like, so in a way, there's no image. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about me. You don't have to worry about who's watching. It sort of doesn't matter. You know, it's just follow the way the beat moves, and then follow the way that the inner voice in your system talks to you, and just let your fingers drop. Just drop your left hand fingers. You know, your average of intonation is pretty good. It's close. You know, you're in the upper averages,
Good.
and that's a better way to do it. And then you take care of the little things that don't work. That's fine. And your contact is pretty good. Let it work for you, you know, and see, like, in a way, ignore more things, you know. See, let it work and conduct inside and sing it to yourself, and ignore me, you know. That's beautiful. Do you feel more? See, that's, I can feel you in yourself, you know. So sometimes it's like a physical thing, but sometimes it's more of a leaving yourself alone, you know. You don't have to present yourself. You're just there to play the music.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
you know, presentation's important to a degree, but you can end up with too many images. You know, there are too many images, and so the music, we just have to leave ourselves alone.
Yeah.
So because your ear works well and your voice is beautiful, and your pulse is natural, those are really valuable things, you know.
Mm.
And then it gives us something to hold on to, that's what's happening, you know. And then our hands follow, right? So
Yes.
you know what I mean? In other words, if I'm correcting something you're doing physically or working with it, it can be a little dangerous in a short session, because it pulls the person out
Mm-hmm.
instead of hearing what they want to play and feeling it, and then letting it emerge from there. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very much how music is written, right? It's not
Yes.
just written for a physicality.
Yeah.
Go on, because that's interesting. And so let's conduct the next section. Let's be kind of simple-minded, you know. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm. These bridging sections.
Go ahead and sing it. Just sing it once.
Okay.
Just ignore everybody. You know,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
it's for you. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
it's for you.
Hmm.
I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Right. We're just
Yeah.
and we're just working right now, and that's it.
Hmm. Yes.
And that it's
Okay.
enough. It's enough. You know what are we trying to do? So
Okay.
one, we conduct from B. One, two.
Da, 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 dum. Da, bum, bum, ba, da, 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 dum, da, ya, da, dum. Mhm. Okay.
That's really good. Now,
Yeah.
when we started, the only thought I had is that when you started, try conducting for me. This is again, it's just an experiment. You know, we're not trying to be singers or conductors, but experiment conducting with me just really small, like a
Okay.
one, just like almost with your finger,
Yeah.
so that you're not pulled out of yourself. Three, four, and then sing really soft, like hum. I don't know what that note is. So, like. Let it go by. Yeah. Do you see how there's sort of a thread or hold? Yeah. Whereas if we go
Yeah.
too much out, it's like a beautiful voice, but then we feel again like we're doing something for someone else, we're out of ourselves, and then, oh yeah, we could do better. Well, yeah, I mean, everyone could do better.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
it's sort of not the point. So now go ahead and now go into your own world. You have it starts out on a C flat. Is that right?
Yeah.
The next bar is B flat with a G flat, and then you have a D natural. A D natural sounds like a sharp in this key.
Yes. Yeah. Quite.
You know, and when you get to the F B flat, D flat, again the F actually sounds pretty almost sharp like compared to C flat certainly. And then you can see when once you play ya da 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 dee, da da, the C natural sounds and the A natural and G natural are also on the sharp side.
Yeah.
So it's more light. There's more. It's a higher value, and it sort of will lift it up.
Yes. Yeah.
So basically, you're letting yourself be pretty dark, you know, and because of all the flats, and that's in a way you're showing a private thing. And the more you let yourself show a private thing, your body will relax.
Yes. That's
You
true.
know, and you know, it's really not for anyone in a way. It's just like you're letting yourself hear, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you pick too much on the playing as you're letting yourself hear, you can't hear. Do you know what I mean? And so I think there's a sort of a balance between letting that happen and then seeing, okay, you know, this isn't quite connecting. Let's look at it. You know, it's not to ignore these things. It's just and then really try things and experiment and listen to people and try things. But what I'm working with you not is on so much on new things. It's more like sing it inside of yourself, finding what that is and what the nature of it is, and then following it. And then from there seeing, well, okay, this doesn't connect, or I get scared here, or this is strange. Like, why is that? Or it's harder to feel the pulse there, or something, you know? And then, okay, well, how do we rebalance that? What is it, you know, that we're looking at? And then we have technical direction from the point of view of kind of really deeply feeling what, like if you're an architect, what is the building that you're building? Now, if there's technical considerations to how the weight or the structure works,
Yeah.
then you definitely need to look at it.
Yeah.
But but you need to dream the building
First. Okay.
first, and that needs to be quite flush, you know, because if you get busy with the fixing of the building before you've let yourself, it's really not fair, you know. It'll feel like you're destabilizing yourself on purpose. You have to let the body work then. Let it work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So go ahead and sing it and conduct it inside, and go ahead and play the next section. As you play, there's this feeling as you hear deeper that the shoulders relax,
Mm.
that there's something way deep in the shoulder joints just don't have to try. And that you start to sort of let the experiment be where you drop the fingers and you let yourself play. And if it doesn't come out quite right, you don't have to adjust. You don't have to squeeze. You don't have to do anything. Just let it come out not quite right. Because then you can actually see what it is.
Yes.
Thus everything's not a big performance. And even in a big performance, if we don't let it come out how it wants to,
Mm.
the average goes down, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So conduct to yourself, feel a little bit that you're letting the shoulders, as you hear the music stronger and you feel it lower.
Mm.
Really breathe and you let the hands work and you let your impulse work and you leave your mind alone. So
Okay.
that the body can work and just let the system sing and feel a pulse. Okay, just stop for a second. So when you start that, instead of trying to use too much bow, since it's potentially relatively still soft,
Yeah.
what if you stay just within a more, even if it's too weak for now, just so that you don't sort of fall into the pit.
Yes.
And then just keep listening and really count to yourself. One. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful ending note. How does that feel to you? Does it feel more connected?
Yes. More relaxed generally, and especially when I'm thinking it's less up there. And
I just I let go of my shoulders and I think, wow, that's letting go of the shoulders, and then it lets go more, and I think, wow, like how much can it release? It's just like, whoa, it's pretty big. So the question is like before we build up more information, is there a way to develop for each of us to develop our own kind of connection with how it really moves inside of us
Mhm.
and follow that and then release the body more
Yeah.
instead of get more information that one has to think about. So there's a balance to that because you need the information, it's going to create this circulation, but you also need sort of the rest or the strength. And if there's too much information, the strength will go away.
Right.
Um, so look, I think that's beautiful. When you play the crescendo, maybe you could start to develop the feeling of crescendo, maybe through something in a smaller value of how you use vibrato or nuance,
Mm.
and then open the bow.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I thought you did that better. I thought it had more inner. I could feel more inner energy.
Okay.
Now, the next part sounds wonderful with the trills, and up to the top sounds wonderful. When you get to the tempo, I just thought, look at the values. I mean, it's just a thought, and it's a way of organizing music, It's a way of organizing the meaning of pitches, and it may be true and it may not be true. But would you say that the E flat has a lower value? It's a way of describing it, a more flatted
Yeah.
feeling. So if you think you have more like time. Yet it's in a tempo, so it's moving, it's more flowing. And when you have da 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 da, do you see how much that lightens it? And
Yes.
so you let that come in the body, and then da 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 dee. And that allows the audience to sort of breathe and feel
Yeah.
it. That's sort of a semi-cadence.
Yes.
And then again you breathe and you play the next set. Dee da dee da and dee dee da. And this time you play something different, right? You play da do
Flat.
dee.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's really unusual,
Yeah.
So it's not just an idea, So if, like, for instance, if we're talking about hearing the thing in fifths or something, as an idea for today, that, like, you're bright, you can perceive that in a split second,
Hmm.
right? I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about actually being able to look at the spectrum of fifths
Okay.
as if you could sing all the way from like the middle C all the way down to the C flat,
Hmm. Okay.
6 fifths down,
Yeah.
and so it gives one a sense of space, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, sometimes I look at the stars and I just go, what am I doing? I'm teaching violin or something. Like, look at that. Like,
Right.
I don't understand a thing about how, like, how, like,
Yeah.
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 So, but on the other hand, that it is possible just by us perceiving a more dimensional sense of maybe what a flat might really mean
Hmm.
inside of us. It might really, whether it's a symbol or whether it's a feeling, to let that happen, to not have to react, to just let it exist. Then you get C flat, and then you get A natural, G natural,
Yeah.
and that sort of lifts you up, right?
Yeah.
I think there's something, it's sort of simple minded, but that gives us something actually in the specifics of the music to sort of search for
Yes.
in our ear. Now, to search for that, then we have to be quieter in the way that we move. And as we're just slightly quieter, we feel stronger, right? Because most people feel stronger privately than they do publicly.
Hmm.
Like, I remember as a kid having to get up and make a speech. And I thought, wow, how did I ever, like, learn to play the violin and not think about playing in public? How did that ever happen? Because when I got up and said the speech, I could hardly get one sentence out.
Yeah. It's different context suddenly changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means that somehow, like, when we're in music, or let's say you're in public speaking, that you really have something to say with that,
Yeah.
that you drop into that, and therefore you can speak, because you're not thinking about, oh my God, I have to speak.
Yeah.
Therefore, your balance is better,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
So developing more strength and more ability, or more nuance, or more timings, or more technique, or more uh, sensitivities from that position is actually quite available. So what we
Yeah.
want to do is set up the availability for something, not to make it happen,
Right.
not to force it
Yeah.
to develop.
Okay.
Why don't you play that one more time, because it's just so it's really feels much more grounded and deeper in the meaning and the feeling and the communication, and that's not to be underestimated, you know.
Yeah.
And so I would leave it, you know.
Yeah.
And so because this is just a short lesson, why don't you play that one more time? And if you want to add one thing to it, what you're already doing, which I really like, is, the feeling. Sometimes we're nervous with the left hand, right? Because, it's moving and it's changing and it's beautiful. And all the colorations we're talking about, the
Yeah.
different flats and sharps and things, they definitely come from changing the pitch.
Yeah.
It's happening through the body somehow, dropping and releasing the fingers. Yeah, we ornament the note with vibrato. This is very good stuff. But sometimes what we don't look at is that the bow, you know, when you're touch the string, like if you play this, just play me open string and feel the put your mind in the skin on the bow. You know how your skin feels touching the bow, how the string feels
Okay.
from the bow side. So everything's coming from like it's almost like you're looking up at your right hand from underneath, and you feel it falling. Your contact going deeper. You know, like if you hold a child's hand or something, and then you will just be able to relax into that contact. So look, let's try that next time because it's really good work, and I don't want to stretch out
Okay.
class too much. It's too long. But try that on your own and see if that sort of allows your left hand to fall into your bow
Okay.
instead of for the bow to be constantly serving the left hand. Yeah,
Right.
I think
Okay.
so.
That makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
great work, Elise.
Thank you.
Thank you for playing for me.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
I'm
Beautiful.
so sorry to have to move on, but I'm really excited to move on as well because I think it's just going to be great to hear what you have to say to everyone. I have to apologize before we do. We had a bit of an internet glitch here in North London, and our internet went out completely. So if you're on YouTube and it stopped, we're very sorry. It seems like the Zoom meeting kept on just fine and no one got cut off. What that also means is that I've tethered to my phone, so apologies if it's a little bit iffy now. Um, Also, Zoom seems to have changed something on us, which happens every week. We get a new surprise from Zoom. So performers who I asked to not touch your mute buttons, that is no longer the case. Unmute yourself if you can, and if you can't, raise your hand. So sorry for the little bit of housekeeping. We're moving on to the Barber Concerto. We have a section of the first movement. This is Abby James playing for us, and hopefully the video share will work perfectly despite our problems.
Cecily?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, all
Oh,
good.
there we are. Okay.
There's Abby.
Yeah, I lost her for a second. Hold on. Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing? It sounds beautiful. Good. All right. So that's really nice. It has a lot of, like the beginning, has a lot of really specific nuance that I like, that I enjoy. There's a nice feeling of the sound. When you play things like that low B flat, it's a beautiful color change. When you play ya da 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 dum, it's a nice energy and a nice sound. It feels like slightly like unstable as far as being able to enjoy the stroke within a rhythmic sequence. It's just a little bit bunched up, but not bad. Da 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 da. It has also a specific color and a nice movement to the sound. You know, like, and there's little things that I hear, like in the middle of that I hear, oh, okay, what's that little tiny thing that's a little not completely connected with what you're playing, you know. That when you play, yeah, it feels like your fingers just don't want to go fast enough, you know. It's like, okay, they don't want to go fast enough. So it's like, okay, they don't want to go fast enough. So you set it up well, and it's like, oh, because it's kind of fast, you know, and he writes it to be faster, and then you're supposed to play even faster. So we can look at that. Again, the middle section, the sound is beautiful. When you have to increase the vibrato on the top notes or something, it feels like you're not able to get more, like, you know what I mean? Like trying to get it to go more. And it's like, you're not getting any more speed or width or something. Yeah. Like, okay, how do you practice vibrato or experiment with that? The next, like the sevenths down before the piumoso sound really good. The piumoso has a good energy. Probably when you get to the piumoso, you can feel just a little bit more like there's like a pulse, like feel a little bit more of that haunted sort of, okay, you know, it's going to keep building now all the way to the climax. Maybe it's slightly loose in the rhythm. You know, we have to play all these da la da da dee da 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 da. It kind of keep like play with a metronome, it's boring. But you can play a little ahead or behind the metronome, but you want to kind of keep a sense of how you're using the pulse in order to keep the music ebbing and flowing. You know, it's kind of in the middle section, like it's building, but it's not clear that it's actually building until you get to the A, right?
Yeah.
Oh, da, 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 and okay, you know, and then you're going up and boom, 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 boom. Great, going up and going up and going up and going up and boom. All right, it's hard to play the top note because sometimes I don't know, you know, just maybe practice da and just put your fingers down, you know, just sit there on the A have a cup of tea and leave your finger there, you know, because it just feels insecure. Where is the A? Do you play it 1-4 or 2-4? You play 1-3? What do you play? 1-4. Yeah, just sit on the first finger. So many of the shifts are with the first finger in general.
Yeah.
If you just practice like one finger scales sometimes, you know, just demystify it. So you just have to figure out dum ba yum. You have to put the I see. So you can actually have your hand down actually, right? And play dum down ba yum, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to play the same string. So just practice having the finger down like dum ba and have the finger down like, okay, you know, is it the right note? You know, put a little pencil mark or something if you need it. You know, just get used to or play scale arpeggio in that position or whatever. Just so that's not, you don't want to have a scary feeling right there because it's like, and you know, it's amazing that he writes it that way because he writes he's got a lot of confidence in the violinist or the violin sound because there's no orchestra playing on the downbeat. Of course, it's just for an eighth note, but they have a quarter rest, right? So the violin plays by itself. Da ba yam bi da da di da 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 da. It's like, wow, okay. The violin can make an articulation that matches the entire orchestra coming in, and then the trumpets and everyone. Is that possible? Yeah, it's hard to believe. Yeah, so that's a little bit unreasonable anyway, but one can make it work. But you just want to feel like you can get your left hand down. Now, the next scales work pretty well, actually. You know, they seem pretty fluent. When you have dee-da, 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 make sure you just kind of keep a sort of, because it can sound a little bit like da-da, 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 like okay. There's a trip. Keep the triplet going in there somehow. Um, so the next section, all of a sudden, like you have like a shifting thing, right? Right. It's a very subtle thing, but you might want to start on an up bow too if it's easier. I'm not sure. It's a little awkward to shift. Oh yeah, boy yeah. It's maybe a little bit easier. But we'll talk about shifting because I think probably the best thing to spend the time on is this like really basic lesson for left hand technique that Mr. Lay taught me. So it's not original at all, and it'll take about 10 minutes to show you. And it's not going to show up in the class as far as you're playing a bunch and stuff, but it probably is useful because it's the most basic. The part of it that you need the most, well, a little bit everything, but the shifting is what shows when you miss. It's always a shift. It's like so. One of my old friends, Mark Sokol, taught Charis in San Francisco for many years. He used to say, "Ian, why don't you just practice the shifts?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Just go through the piece and like take out your yost or your sevshik or just practice all the shifts. Just go through each shift until you can find a note."
Yeah.
Right. And kind of. And the thing I learned later in life is to feel the shift in your bow so that you can time it with where you're going to be in the bow when you get to that note. So you're timing like the weight and the speed and the sounding point of the bow with the shift and even how you shift the weight of the body, just so it's not like an abstract thing of shifting. So when I teach you the left hand stuff, it won't have to do with the bow. That's why I'm saying it now. But it actually is helpful, to shift the weight and figure it out. So I think it's shifting in a little bit vibrato for you, and then dropping and releasing the fingers for the fast scale. And that's the only place it really shows up big. All the other misses sound like shift misses. So when you play like the part before 13 with all the sevenths, right? That's kind of tricky, right? So that one doesn't work. So this all is, how's it go? There's a lot of them. There are really almost too many of them. It's slightly unnatural, I think. But so somehow rhythmically and how you shift and how you sort of wiggle it in, you gotta find a way where you don't get stuck because the orchestra actually doesn't play in that bar. So you can take a little bit of time, but somehow, maybe to choose a few notes to vibrate and bring out and then sort of move your way through because they're just written in groups of five and the five pattern doesn't sound particularly right musically with the notes. It just sort of works out that way. But look at it and see if you can find a way to make it work so that it's not disorienting to listen to that. That's odd. The next parts, all your scales up like those sort of da 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 da. Maybe you could sort of go forward and back a little bit even if you want. But they sound beautiful. Like the touch, the color and the touch are very, very natural and beautiful. Yeah, the next section, again, is good. It's the same as the other one. And, it's interesting, the chromatics, to enjoy the chromatics. But it sounds quite nice. The next section is the same. It's a little bit awkward at the beginning. And then, then we have fast scales again. So let's jump straight because we're gonna run out of time before we know it. So let's jump straight to the basics. Okay. So this is what Miss DeLay taught me when I was pretty young, and I would go to see her a number of times. I studied with her between 14 and 19, and then I studied with Don Weilerstein, who's the same person Cecily studied with. And both just wonderful teachers and very, very different. But Miss Lay taught me this basic three things of the left hand. And then when I saw her over the years, whenever I had something, she'd ask me how I was, and I would say, my left hand's tired. And she would teach me the same thing again. Like literally, when I was 40 years old, she'd teach me the same thing again. And she'd teach it the same way. Some things with her over the years changed. Like when she was younger, she taught these basics, but she didn't talk about energy. And when she got older, she talked about how all the variation, whether it's variation of vibrato or variation of bow speed or whatever the variation is, creates a change in energy. And she was into this. She said, everything is energy. And that was really different. And that's because her students were playing really, really clean. And somehow it wasn't energetically differentiated, you know, the different sections or even the way that people played differently than each other. There just wasn't enough change, even though it was so well played. So she added that. So everything was about energy and how to scale the energies of the piece. So you have your climax and you have your this and you have your low point, and you know, she was really organized. Now, the basics that she taught goes something like this. What do you do with your left hand? Like what does the hand do to play the violin? Right? So to play a scale, let's say, to scale up, what do you have to do?
Like move your fingers.
Right. So to play a scale up, which way do your fingers go? Which way does the hand work?
Towards you.
You drop the finger, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Great. So she would say that drop is like gravity, you know, like drop. It's the simplest possible thing.
Yeah.
And then to play down the scale, you release the finger. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So she would look at you and say, well, Sugar Plum, we're going to do that in a second, but that right there is a full third of left hand technique. And you'd be like, you're kidding. That's all it is? You know, look so hard. And then she would say, what else do you do with your left hand?
Move it.
Shift.
Yeah.
Great, shift. Okay, great. And that's the next third of left hand technique. Now, what else do you do with your left hand?
Move it back.
What?
Move it back. Shift down.
Yes, that's still shifting. All right, so let's move it to another area. What do you do to make this sound expressive?
I use vibrato.
Yes, vibrato. So vibrato is a third. She said, that's it. That's all of left hand technique.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then, so I might have to compact it a little bit. It might have taken 15 minutes to teach this, and I'm going to try to teach it in 10. All right. So let's start with drop release. Okay. So the way she taught drop release is really simple. She basically said, you play an open G string, okay? And then you're going to drop the second finger on the D, okay? On the D. Now, when you drop the finger on the D, as soon as you drop it, you're going to release to a harmonic. So you'll have the principal note, open string, drop, and as soon as you drop the finger, let it come up. So if you've ever gone fishing, it's a little bit like when you throw out the thing with the float, you know, and the float goes bloop, and it comes right back up to the surface. And that's drop. So just get a little more principal. Just drop the finger with gravity so you get a little bit of the principal note, the D, and then let go. That's it. That's it. Ba-la-ha. Perfect. So there's just it's no effort. And then you can find one here. That's the drop. Yeah, that's it. Oh, there's nothing on an F. Harmonica. So that's great. That's great. That's the drop, okay? And then she would say, Sugar Plum, that's fantastic. That's a sixth of left-hand technique right there. And you're thinking, why, my goodness, you know, I got like almost 20% already. She really made you feel like you could play. It's amazing. I would never play without her making me, I definitely didn't think I could play. So she'd say, this is how simple it is. Now, all right, the release. This is the one that takes the most time to explain. So when she talked about the release of the hand, she went through a few things before she had you play the violin. So put down the violin for a second. We're not going to be able to really successfully do all this on Zoom, but we'll see what we can do, okay? So the first thing let me think, the first thing she would have you do is sit in a chair, all right? So I can't do this with you, so we'll just talk through it. And she would, I can't remember whether she did it or had me do it, but she'd have me cross one leg over the other and then look for my, my, what do you call it? Your knee, where your reflex goes. And then you would get your foot to go, you go whoop, bloop, it would go like this, right? And then she'd go, wow, Sugar Plum, what great reflexes you have. And you think, wow, I didn't know I had good reflexes, right? And then she would say, well, do you know that's the ticket? It's not a muscular action. It's all neurological, And you're going like, neurological, I might have to look that up,
Yeah.
Neurological. She said, that means it's a nervous system. She said, it's so much faster than the muscular system. You'd be like, interesting. Okay. And then she would go on and she would say, now, do you know in the old days, and she always told the story the same way, that's why I remember it, because it was always the same. In the old days when they took the black cape and they put it over your head, to take the photograph, and they go bing like this, and then the flash would come. And she said, the flash comes, and by the time the flash hits your eyes, it's already gone. I'd be like, yeah, okay. And she'd go, okay, Sugar Plum. Now, hold your hand up like this. She'd have you hold your hand up like this, or you could hold it at your side, But for now, we'll hold it up like this and balance your wrist on your forearm and your forearm on your elbow, right? And then she would have you do something like that goes where you spring back your hand open from the base joints. So the base joints are here, right? Right, that's that middle set, the big set of joints. She would have you release your hand from the base joints. So when it releases back, it's a little like, when a fish catches another fish, it goes like this and it sucks the other fish in to its mouth. Or like, how a lizard catches a fly or something? It's like, bloop, and the tongue pops out. So it's a very, very physically instinctive music. And she would say this is a nervous system movement. This is not a muscular movement. And then she would say, now look at your hand as if it's the flash. And imagine that the flash went off. But by the time the flash goes off, it's already gone. Pop. That's it. Pop. That's it. Now, how she would teach it is that it goes, the back end of it is all the way, it's like hitting a ball, You hit it, it goes all the way against the wall. So this part here completely let it pop. Right. Exactly. Now, I did what you did a little bit at first where I opened my fingers. So she had me take my hand and hold my forearm there. Now, if you bring it back this way, okay, bring your hand, show me this. So when you bring it back, it's like don't do anything with your fingers. Just pull the open from here. Yeah, so it just comes back. Like it's just like almost take your other hand and push your fingers back a little bit. So you don't want to make an awkward motion. Yeah, leave your fingers bent. Yeah, that's it. It just feels a little like that. It's actually a soft feeling. It's not a harsh feeling at all. And it's never held. So when I'm describing it, I'm having you hold it so you could see it. But it's not held. It's like hitting a ball. It just goes bakong, and it's gone. It's so fast. So it goes back to this point, and then it's gone. Boom. That's right. Now then she had us hold our arm here. Now when you open it, try opening your fingers all the way straight. Like that. Straight. As quick as you can. Boom. Right. Now, this time let it open just for the bass joint. So don't move your fingers. Don't try to do anything with your fingers. That's it. That's fantastic. You see how it starts to pop? It's a little like foosball, like the soccer that you play.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little like that. The guys who are really good at it, they just go boom. You don't even see their hand move. Or it's a little bit like a collé. When we practice collé for the bow. It's like Zuckerman. He's the guy who do collé to get it quick and strong. And so that's right. It's just really so quick. And so you'll notice like that it's a lot less work to do it just from here than it is to open the fingers. Right. So it's boom and it's gone. Right. Fantastic. So I would teach my students this way sometimes. I say, see, look at my hand. See? Look at my hand. Oh, did you see it? Did you see it? It was so fast. You must have blinked. So it's a sense of that. It's just such a little, tiny little impulse. So that's the basis of the release. Okay. Now we get the violin, and this is also the most detailed part. So the most energy is spent on teaching the release of the fingers of all of the things. It's interesting. So then she would say, play. You're gonna play this note, D. You're gonna have your hand here. All right. So you're gonna have the fourth finger on the D, and when you take the fourth finger off, you're gonna caress the third finger all the way up to the second joint. Okay? And then you're going to release the bass joint here. Now, the point of that is just to allow it to stay in its sheath, right? Because if we play like this, right, that it gets so hard because the other fingers you can't move. So she was so specific about the fourth finger caressing the third finger, and it was always the same word, all the way up to the second joint, and she would demonstrate it, and she had beautiful hands all the way to the second joint, and then you do it with your bow, and then take your left, yeah, and you have to leave the fourth, and leave your wrist against the violin, so you're resting. So leave your wrist against the violin, right? Great. Caress, caress. Good. Now take your bow off, and check this joint. Touch this joint. Yeah, and just make sure nothing's holding. Right. That's super. That's fantastic. That's the thing. So that's it. That's the fourth finger release. Slowly caress and then check. Great.
We're a little tight.
Oh, my speaker just went off.
Oh.
Holy cow. Came back. Good. That's it. All right. Now, after that, when the third finger releases, then 3 and 4 both release together. 3 and 4 both release together. That's right. That's right. And that's the same thing that we were just practicing. That's that pop from the bass joint. And then 2 releases. 2. When 2 releases, then all 3 fingers let go. That's it. Perfect. So that all comes from the bass joint. And then 1 releases, they all release. That's it. That's it. That's it. Okay? That's a drop release. And she would look at you and say, Sugar Plum, you got it. That's a third of violin technique. She said, all drop releases work that way. Now, of course, you can drop your finger slow. You can drop your finger any way you want. It's not actually true. But the basis of the reflex is there. So if you have to play something fast, if you're dropping the fingers and release. Drop.
Yeah.
Release, drop, shift. It's basically how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 'cause then your hands will work just like piano keys. Just
Yeah.
it's sort of simple. Basically, everything comes from the bass joint. All right, that's drop release. Okay, so we have a few minutes. What do you want to do next? Vibrato or shifting? Maybe shifting, right? All right. So she taught the shifting, and the shifting doesn't take long. She said, okay, there are 2 kinds of shifts. Tell me what they are. There are 2 kinds of ways to shift.
Shifting up and shifting down.
Right, absolutely. But what she's asking for is that, like, for instance, if Heifetz plays something, in a romantic piece, he might shift this way, like that, which is they call it Russian shift, right? And then if you're playing another kind of piece, maybe you would shift that way, where you have the space in between, and that's called a French shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a name for it. I don't know if they're particularly more Russian or French. I just don't know. But that's what she told me. So one is a Russian and one is a French shift. Great. All right? Now, when you practice shifting, she said, she asked a question, do you shift heavy, medium light, light, or very light, generally?
Probably, mostly sometimes I like grip too much, so I'm probably shifting too heavy.
Well, I'm not saying what you're doing. I'm saying just a general. Yeah, you're fine. You're good. But like, what's a general rule of shifting? Like if you had to make a rule, like
It probably should be like light to medium.
right. And she would say that's super sugar plum. It's definitely light,
Yeah.
you know. So she was about light, like really light. So then she would take the violin, which she hardly ever played, and she would demonstrate. And she would demonstrate. All right. What did you hear in the middle?
Harmonics.
Yeah. So that's how light she was.
Okay.
Give it a shot. Oh, she would ask one more question. She would say, when you play the shift, right? When you get near the note, do you speed up or slow down? Usually. What's
Slow
better?
down.
Right. And she'd go, that's fantastic.
Okay.
In the middle of a shift, you can do whatever you want.
Mhm.
And so then she would demonstrate like playing a shift, like she'd say, you could play it 1,000 times and you'll never miss it because you slow down. You shift light, you slow down when you get near the note. It's like putting your finger on your nose that you have an infinite amount of time.
Yeah.
So she would just smile at you and say, there's never a reason to miss a shift. You shift light, so it's easy, and then you can hear it. You slow down and you wait till you're there and then drop the finger. So try this, the B to the D.
Wait.
Yeah. That's yeah. Yeah. Play around with that. I mean, the amount of light you could play is extraordinary.
Yeah.
All right?
It feels like
That
kind of weird.
it's weird. And if you put the finger on a little bit the left side of the string, it's even easier because then you feel it's even a lighter touch because your finger's not directly on the string. It's floating on the left side. That's sort of the ticket.
Hmm.
That's the shifting lesson. Okay, I'm gonna show you the vibrato lesson. We only have 1 second. It goes like this. Only mainly one vibrato exercise, which is an E flat and rolling back to a D harmonic. And then she would have you speed it up. And when you speed it up, you lose the harmonic. All right? And that was the main vibrato exercise she taught. And she showed me so many times. So let your hand rock back when you do it. Let your hand rock back. Right, so don't adjust the wrist. Just let your hand fall. Right. Right. So that's it. So what you want to do is roll the finger, not slide the finger. That's it. Okay. That's it. You got it. So then basically she'd say, that's fantastic, Sugar Plum. You can speed it up with a metronome or however that you want. When it gets a certain amount faster, lose the harmonic. And then when it goes a certain amount faster, lose the wrist. You could just vibrate with the arm. So that was the main vibrato exercise she gave. And then she'd ask you, like, do you want a wide one or a medium one or a narrow one and a wrist vibrato or a fingertip vibrato? And then you choose your vibratos, and that's what would create variation.
Yeah.
All right? But do you see what I just showed you? That's the whole left hand lesson. That's it. It's over.
Great.
That we got it in.
Thank you.
All right, listen. I know that you didn't play, but you played really, really well, and there's so many really beautiful things. And play around with this because you might find that the things that are bothering you
Yeah.
work a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good for you. Nice to meet you and hear you.
Bye.
Thanks for playing. Bye.
That was that was worth the price of admission that we've all paid here. Amazing. Thank you. I mean, I've always wondered about what a lesson with Miss DeLay was like, and now I know. It's really, really
I lost
cool.
the gallery. I lost the gallery view.
You lost the gallery view. That's okay because we're gonna play a video now, and you can sort it out while
Okay.
that happens.
Perfect.
We get some Ysaye now, and this was the video that you didn't get to hear
Right. Okay.
because I
Perfect. Thank you.
didn't send it in time. So
And
this is
Alex?
the first movement of Ysaye's Fourth Sonata, the Allemanda, and this is Alex.
Hey,
Hello.
Alex. Sounds really good, Alex.
Thanks.
So I didn't have time to hear you before, so I just heard it right now. So I haven't thought about it. Um, it sounds really good. It sounds like really well connected with this string and the instrument and the harmonies. And it feels a little bit like this piece has two dynamics. Like a forte, and it kind of is, right? The whole beginning is forte, right? More or less. And then it's piano tranquillo. You have a poco forte, and then another forte, and then you have a pianissimo section, right? Near in the last page. And then that kind of comes up to mezzo forte, diminuendo, back to piano, a little hairpin up to mezzo forte, and then your forte, fortissimo, the end, right? It's simple in a way, in that way, right? So your piano sound is and pianissimo sound is beautiful, and it has a real feeling and a real color, and your forte sound also has a really good connection, and it's really well played. Um, I guess, and it's beautiful to listen to. So, um, what I wonder is just how it can even sequence more, or within, say, forte, or within, say, piano. How do you differentiate? Does that make sense? So, so Miss DeLay used to do this. Cecily likes the Miss DeLay stories. I have a million of them. Well, Miss DeLay used to basically have us write in sequences, and it was in Bach, but could be in anything. And then even though in Bach there are no dynamics, so that kind of mostly no dynamics. But the question is within a forte, say, right? Within a forte section or a piano or a pianissimo section, how much are you differentiating
The dynamics between, or just,
something, right? And again, it's expressive and it moves and it's beautiful, but it can sound a little bit one sound,
Mhm.
you know, and it's a good sound, you know. It's just how to develop it so it has more variation.
Okay, yeah.
Um, I think it's a reasonable thought, and at the point that you're at where it's strong, it feels strong to listen to it. Um, it's a matter of sort of how to bring it to life more. And the way she did it was basically to have you write sequences and make some differentiation.
I'm
Um,
a little bit confused on, I guess, what sequences is referring to. Is that like
so
sections of
let's
a?
say you play ba-da-da-da, ba-ba-da-da-da, right? You play the first one, right?
Mhm.
It's all marked forte, right?
Mhm.
You play ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, that would be one, okay?
Okay.
Now where's two?
There's, it continues again with the same thing. Da da da
Yeah,
da.
that's a sequence.
Okay, yeah.
Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Then where's the next one?
And it just keeps on going.
Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Right, and then where's the next one?
And one more time. Da 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 da.
There's four of them. Okay. And then you get to the top, right? You play right? That could be four sequences, or you could say it's two sequences, or that's just one, right? You could do it either. And then you play right? And then yeah, so those are all sequences of each other.
All right.
And you could write in the sequence in the smallest grouping or the medium grouping or a larger grouping. Okay, so let's do it, okay? Let's spend the time. We're going to write in the sequences. And it's, people could really argue against it because, it's a forte. So,
Mhm.
you know, but does that mean it has the same level of intensity? It's always changing. So it needs some change. And you are doing some change. So it's just in order to clarify it. So if the first sequence is and then you write a little line like this, like a little lever, like chico, like a little
Okay.
thing like that, yeah, and then you put a little one and you put a little circle around it. All right, that's one. All right, and then da 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 da, you put two. Da 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 da, you put three. Yeah. Okay, just make believe for now. It's fine. It doesn't matter.
I know the pencil tough.
Yeah, try it out later. Try it out. Try it out and see how it works. But that was her solution. Now, as far as Miss DeLay goes, that was pretty much what she taught about music. I can't remember her saying anything else about music. She talked about sequences and having variation of dynamic on sequences. And then she might talk to you about something like character. She would say, okay, Sugar Plum, that sounds great. Now, let's look at this section. Now, what kind of character do you want? And you would say, whatever. And then she would say, well, what kind of vibrato do you like for that? Wide, medium. We could try that too. What kind of bow speed and what kind of bow weight? And it would just get you to vary it, like just more and more to think about how you're varying things. So if we were doing the sequences, when you start, right, would the second sequence be more than the first one or less? If you had to vary it a little bit.
I think it should probably be a little bit more because we're going a little bit higher in the notes.
Up, yeah, great. And the third sequence would be a little bit more also?
I think so, yeah, because
Okay, and the fourth sequence?
would be like the climax where you would try to reach.
Right.
But I guess you could also vary in between with
Yeah, but it's fine, Honestly, when she taught, whatever you chose was perfect, just as long as you choose. So whatever you choose is good. Leave it. So then when you play the top, you want to say the first bar is one sequence, and then you see the second bar. See, he cheats because you would want to play less, right? But he writes sempre forte there. Ha. So maybe she's wrong. Now, I don't see any bar lines in the rest, but obviously it's just missing. So then you have three big sequences, right?
Mhm.
Or 6, or you could probably make it into 12, right, if you wanted to. So probably it comes down a little bit somewhere and comes back up, right, in order to get a little bit of swing into the main tune. So why don't you play from the beginning and just see those sequences and just differentiate them in some way so they're either somewhat increasing or somewhat decreasing or somewhat different than each other. And see what it sounds like, see what it feels like for you. Great. Do you like it better?
I do, yeah. I feel like there's a little bit more variation, both in tempo-wise and dynamic-wise, which makes it a little bit more fun and interesting.
Yeah, I think you could take that as far as you want, You could still start with that sort of amazing strength that's coming out of your sound at the beginning, You don't have to tone it down too much, And when you get into that last cadence, you could probably bring it up more. But, it's true that the whole beginning part is still written in forte. It's not fortissimo. But I think that's going to really give you more variation and energy changes in your playing. And I think if you had more specific character, energy, dynamic, direction, timing changes in your playing, it brings out it's going to open a whole bunch of things up. So we're going to stick with Miss DeLay's really simple thing, which is just sequences, which is the only thing musically she taught to me, which is amazing. I mean, I stayed with her 5 years. I learned sequences. I don't know, I guess they're all different. So the next part, yum ba da da la da la da da ya da 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 yum ba da 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 dum. I guess you could break it into groups of two quarter notes, right?
Yeah.
If you want, or you could just say all three bars are one sequence, But I guess that's a half a phrase. I don't know. So let's break it into the hemiola thing, which is two beats, two beats. So go through it in your mind and put a specific dynamic or something on within forte. Of first two beats, then the next two beats. The third one is different, the rhythm a little bit, and the last one is like the other guys. All right, and then the next one is the fourth bar, which sounds like the first bar of this thing. Da 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 da. Yeah, so it's really a 3-bar sequence, actually, probably. So again, she would let you decide whether you wanted to do it in smaller sequence groups or bigger sequence groups. So go ahead and construct that in your mind in some way, and then play from the a tempo. Good. And how does that sound for you?
I liked it. Yeah, it was good.
I think that's the right direction. It's gonna create much more variation and connection. Already, to me, that sounds better too. Now, the next part, yum, okay, then where are your sequences? Again, they're in like little tiny sequences, and you can group them in 2 or 3. How do you want to group that? Diddle-a-dum, diddle-a-dum, bum, diddle-a-dum, diddle-a-dum, da-da-da, diddle-a-dum, da-da-da-da. It's sort of irregular, I guess, after a while. How would you group the beginning of that?
I think I was more thinking in just smaller sequences, just a pickup to a longer note, and then just repeating that again.
Right, so sort of by the bar, I guess, then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's 3 sequences before the E minor cadence in the 4th bar, or semi-cadence, whatever that is. Right. Is that right?
Hmm.
It's sort of by the bar.
Yeah,
And then the next 3 bars are sort of by the bar too, right? Even though you have a 4/8 at the end before the cadence.
yeah. They're by bars too, I think.
Okay. So give that a go and differentiate how you want to show that. You could also do this with just timing, that you could do it dynamic and timing. Yeah. So play that much. And yeah, just clarify it and shape it as you like or time it as you like and show it so we can hear it. Yeah. How does that sound to you?
I also liked that better. I thought it was a lot more interesting than before.
I do too. And I enjoyed it before, but you're bringing me to more different places somehow. Yeah. I thought that's also elegant. There's something majestic or elegant about that approach. So dum da 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 la da. It's fortissimo, right? It's odd. It like ends fortissimo, and with a 30-second note, and then there's a fermata on a 30-second rest, right? That's a little unusual. And then piano tranquillo. So, I mean, at a risk of being minimal and boring, why don't we just keep working on this for 5 more minutes with the sequences? I really think it makes the most difference. You play it well, and the notes fall in so naturally, And it's when you hear the different shapes with more differentiation, it's great. So look at the next section, right? Because you have this little introduction. Da 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 da. That's irregular, slightly, right? But then you have very clear sequence by the bar, right?
Yeah.
So again, take a second and just look at that and decide how you like it, and then give it a go. How does that feel?
I liked it also. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I think that's also much better. So probably, when you play some of it, he writes poco forte, but how do you interpret those little hairpins? How do you do them? What do you?
I just held them a little bit longer and just vibrated them a little bit more than that.
That's right. Actually, that's right. Just show the little kind of, and even though it's poco forte, you want to show a certain kind of vulnerability. The strength is balanced by vulnerability. So probably you could experiment with this section, even how it kind of moves a little more like waves, kind of more liquidy, because then it's so contrasted with the majestic, more powerful first theme material, But I think that sounds beautiful. You want to try it one more time and just experiment with, like, if you were to count 1, 2, 3, first sequence, and the next one 1, 2, 3. Next one 1, 2, 3. Ways to sort of just for yourself give it even more of a sort of the interpretation. Give it more of a fantasy. Don used to say to me. He used to say, do you think of fantasy? I can't imitate him. It's terrible to do. He said, think of the fantasy. And it's like, do you like puzzles? And I'd be like, no. I was a difficult student. But he would ask for, a feeling of longing, something, Do you feel a feeling of longing when you play it? Yeah? It's interesting,
Yeah.
All right, play that one more time and then we'll let it go. But basically, I think this way of looking at sequences and how to color them and how to time them and how to vary them against each other, it's going to open a lot of doors for you.
So in general, how should I approach a sequence and try to vary them differently?
I think the simplest way is making slight dynamic variation. You could also sort of write in a little bit the timings you like. If you want to take a little time somewhere, okay, write a little like squiggle. If you want to go forward, a little arrow forward. If you want a different mood, you could even go through the different moods and write a few words. To clarify for yourself what you're going for with the mood. And then you could think to yourself, okay, I'm going for that mood. Now, what kind of vibrato or what kind of bow weight would I use? What kind of bow speed or what kind of sounding point or, how do I make that mood happen, right? And it's not that we have to do one thing or the other. It just helps us direct our technique towards specific expression. And so the way to do sequencing is just basically probably initially slight dynamic variation, even within a piano. Kind of it's a bit, make a big opening, and then you'll work it out from there. Do it one more time, and then let's let it go. It's beautiful. It's really good. I like that a lot better. A lot better. And you had some very beautiful expressive things when you were high. You know, experiment when you go low and you have the crescendo, how to regroup the sequences so it has, you can use a different vibrato or have more motion or have more power come out of it. Yeah, I think so. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for playing. It's really well done. Excellent. Thank you.
It's really beautiful playing, Alex. It's great and wonderful to think about this piece again. And I'm sitting here looking at my part of it, which I studied this with Dawn, and I think I probably had fantasy to spare because the only thing written in my part is tempo and intonation. It's making me laugh. And vibrato on every note. Typical. For me, anyway. Tchaikovsky Concerto. We still have one more performer. This is Elise. She's in Texas. She's playing the last movement of Tchaikovsky. We've had the first movement several times in the class, but not the last. So, and we're going to cut it. She was so great. She sent me the whole movement, but we're just going to play the first 5 minutes so we have time. Okay.
How are
Thank
you?
you.
Well
I'm
done.
good. How are you?
Hey, you're in Hawaii?
I'm not currently in Hawaii. I used to live there, but I'm in Texas now.
Okay, got it. All
Yeah.
right. So a lot of really good things. I really loved the lyric playing when you play yada 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 yada. It's a beautiful sound and a really nice vibrato and really nice contact. Um,
Thank you.
how does it feel for you? Where are you in your process with this piece?
Um, for this movement, pretty early. I've been on it for about like a month and a half. Um,
Yeah,
so I mean, there's still some polishing to do, but
it sounds really good. But what are you thinking? Like, what do you think you need to work with? What do you want to spend the time on?
I would say like variants of character in different aspects of this movement because
Okay.
very repetitive. And so
Right.
different themes come back, and then within like the lyrical parts, there's the same phrase over and over again. So I think I need like more variants within
Yeah.
those phrases and then all over the movement, I think.
That's really great. That's really true. Now, does the basic stroke or the coordination, just the way that stroke is working for this, sort of spiccato stroke, does it feel like rhythmical? Does it feel natural to you? Or are you having to work for it? Because sometimes if like we're overworking for some reason, whether it's just like a lot of shifts and stuff, and then a lot of spiccatos to coordinate, then it's hard to vary it if we're so busy with like one thing. So, is there something in that material that you think that we could work on for a minute that would help us be able to vary it more? You feel like it's more the left hand or the bow or the coordination? Or how does it feel?
I would say like variants of bow speeds. Like
Okay,
like within the eighth notes because they're staccato eighth notes and then the 16th notes happen.
right.
Um, it's I feel like my mind is already on the 16th notes by the end of the eighth notes, so I'm having a hard time like separating the bow
I
strokes.
see. Now, part of that is it could have to do with something simpler, not even so. Yeah, so technical in a way. Is it? Do you feel like that when you're leading the music, you're leading it to the downbeat pulse? You play yum ba da dum bum bum bim bum ba da dee da 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 da. I mean, are you grouping them differently? In other words, go here and then go there, and then ba da 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 dee. You go there. You know what I mean? Are you sort of figuring out your obstacle? It's like an obstacle course almost, though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are
It
you are
really
you
is.
are you playing the game of the obstacle course?
I
I
feel
mean,
like a little
try
bit.
try play it and exaggerate that just for fun, and don't try to play it perfectly. Just see if you could give the aim where you want to go. So if you're going here and then yump it up, 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 bum, and then boom, 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 go there and then back and then recover and then get yourself back together, and then or just go cha, right? I mean, it's a fun thing. So you want to practice it in a way that inevitably it can feel easy and joyful, and that it doesn't like sound good, but like too hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is a little tricky. So give it a go and shape it that way, and then I remember something that I think it was Miss, I can't remember, Dawn taught me about how to get the bow off the string, and it's just an interesting game, and I could show you. But go ahead and give this a go, and show the shapes and the directions more, and drop a note. You know what I mean? Don't worry too much, because if you're thinking too much of every little thing having to be right, then sometimes the variation or the rhythm of the sequences just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
play a little bit, and then I'll show you a spiccato exercise.
Okay.
Okay, how's that?
There we go. There we go.
All right, great. Now that sounds better,
Okay, yeah.
like right away. Quite a bit freer. Now, I'm going to show you this staccato stroke. Because I was looking at your left hand and I thought, I was going to show you this thing about how to just find one note at a time, which I can, which makes the left hand really, really comfortable. I think it probably comes from delay too. She taught such simple things, you know, that even I could remember them. Well, you know, sometimes it's hard to remember things. You take lessons and there's a lot of times I couldn't remember much of anything. And when I was learning it, it was great, you know, and I really thought, wow, that's great. And then I can't remember it. So she somehow was able to sort of break it down to a place where even without much of a memory, you could still remember it. You know, that was a long time ago that I learned that stuff. It's like literally, well, you want to know, over 40 years ago. Over 40 years ago. That's really something. Wow. Whew. Now, yeah, we'll just leave it right there. So, do you want the spiccato exercise, or do you want the how to practice intonation exercise without working at all? Or do you want both?
Staccato. Well, I'd love both.
All right, we'll just do both. So look,
Let's do both.
as far as your playing goes, when you release it and play the direction of the music like that and shift the weight of your body and stuff, that sounds so much more natural right away. Otherwise, you know, it sounds good, but it sounds like too much work.
Yeah.
You know, and then I look at it, it's actually pretty in tune, you know, and the stroke's not bad, but it feels labored. I think it just has to do with how you're sequencing it and how you're directing it. So what you just did there is probably, honestly, the main thing about getting the music across. And then, you know, you have to trust yourself. And if you make a mistake, oh well, you know, fix it later.
Yeah.
All right, now I will show you the two things, all right? I think these are Miss Delay. I don't know. So the first one is the spiccato exercise. You need a lot. I can't see myself on the screen, so you need a lot of room for this one. So be careful, all right? So you're feeling, you don't want to break your bow. She would literally have us do this. All right, you ready for this? All right. You see my bow all the way around? Well, be careful, but. All right, so that's a down bow. It goes in a giant arc. By that. Boom. Watch the ceiling. Great. Now really let the bow, I know it feels, you know, I don't want anyone to break their violin, but you want to sort of go for 4 strings, you know.
Okay.
So you could also loosen your bow a little bit because it'll catch all 4 a little easier. But, you know, basically, like just let that bow, you can see how much action it, like, boom.
Yeah.
Let it happen a little bit. Don't protect it, yeah? Boom. That's it. Fantastic. All right, so that's a down bow, right? Now we're going to go up bow. Woo! Coming in for a landing, and then it bounces right off. Yeah, that must have been Miss Delay. I remember her smiling at me when she did this. That's it. Yeah, that's great. So it's great when you get 4 strings, you know, and she would say, that's it, Sugar Plum. You know, and you think, wow, it was kind of easy. Oh, man. But I really appreciate that she simplified things because I wouldn't have understood it at all, really. Now, she said, now that's it, Sugar Plum. Now the next thing, we gotta do this. Down, up.
Down, up.
Boom. got it. Fantastic. Okay. Now we're going to start the third step. That's fantastic. Yeah. And she would say, that's fantastic. It all is coming from the down bow. The up bow just as a response.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then she would keep it going. You're like, you know, it's like off to the horse races, right?
Yeah.
Try. Hit. Right? And then like this. That's it. And then. Right. And then just let it even out. That's right. And then, you know, she'd say, that's fantastic, Sugar Plum. And she'd go back to this, saying, isn't it remarkable how that just feels free in your arms? So we do one more time. We go around the cycle one more time. Yay. And then we do it, then we get to the next one. Yay. And then, yeah, kick it. Yeah, then let it go. She would never, she'd say, Sugar Plum, it's never really even. And you'd be like, oh, that's good, because I couldn't get it even anyway. So, and then you end up with sort of like this. Yeah, play the beginning of this thing, bump it up, bump, 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 and just see how it feels.
Okay.
It's quite fun. That's gonna work. Yeah. You already feel some opening. Yeah, there's an opening.
Yes.
So just practice it a little slower. You know, don't be embarrassed to play like. It doesn't have to sound good. It's a practice room. If the neighbors complain or, you know, put a mute on, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to sound so great, you know. But that lets that irregularity have space. I think that's great. I think that's going to make it so much easier for you. Does your left hand feel actually freer that way?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's much better. I experiment with that. That's got a good long life to it. Now, if I just want to show you really the sort of short version of the lesson of the finding the notes lesson, there's a funny story. I was listening to I was reading a book by Szigeti. And I can't even remember the Art of Playing or something. It's a beautiful book. And I remember where I was when I was reading it, because I remember when I got to this one paragraph, it was like about 2/3 of the way through the book. And he's writing about everything, about Bach, about, you know, it's stunning. You know, it's really very deep and beautiful and and inspiring book, full of complexities, you know, and simple things too, but it's a lot. And then he wrote this one paragraph that said, I have to admit, after all of the playing and all of the different things that we're talking about and interesting, Szigeti on violin. He said, I have to admit that 80 to 90% of my time, unless I remember this wrong, is spent just measuring whole steps and half steps.
Yeah.
And I just laughed. I thought, oh man, I thought it was only me.
Yeah.
Still trying to find the notes after all those years, you know. Well, you know, and I've asked a lot of people, and they're like, yeah, you know, measure them and measure the shifts, and, you know, it's part of it, you know. So
Yeah.
Miss DeLay's way of teaching measurement was just really probably the simplest possible way.
Okay.
And basically, like I have an armchair over there, but I'm not going to move the camera so I get there. But she would literally want you to sit in a chair that had arms on it so you could rest your arms.
Oh wow.
Like both your elbows, you know.
Yeah.
Look, later she used to sit on the couch and pretty much relax all the time until she started having hip problems, and then she sat upright in a straight chair
Oh,
because the couch can hurt your back, you know.
yeah.
But most of us were pretty high strung as far as trying to figure it out, you know. And so she would take some of the pressure out of us by letting us sit in a chair, rest our arms, and just like relax. And that was pretty important. I doubt I would be able to play the violin hardly at all unless she had done that, because I was just trying so hard.
Yeah.
You know, and people around me could play circles around me, and I was just like, I had to try even harder. I had a brother that could play like anything at age like 13 or 14. It was really outrageous.
Wow.
So, you know, it was like, okay. So she taught us in this very, very simple way. So you can find any 4 bars or something that's a little tricky or challenging for pitch, or it doesn't really matter. So I'll just describe it to you. We don't have to do the whole thing. Basically, like, here, pick a few bars for me. Show me where I can look.
I don't have measure numbers, but
Just play it for me. So
just the one measure with all the sharps, double sharps like that.
which one? Okay, so I don't have that in front of me, but what she would have you practice is something like this. You would start there like, okay? You're in an armchair, okay? So the first thing we do, these are rules to this, all right? Very specific rules. There has to be more silence than note, or at least equal,
Okay.
okay? The sound doesn't matter,
Okay.
only the pitch, okay? If the note's either flat, in tune, or a little sharp, you go back 1 note, okay?
Okay.
If that's notes out of tune, you go back 1 other note. I've had instances where I end up back at the beginning, you know? All right, you can cheat with the shifts. So that means you can really show the shift a little bit with a light bow so you can hear where you are,
Okay.
if there's a shift. All right, those are the rules, okay?
Okay.
Now, you don't have to repeat a bunch of notes if they're repeated or a passage is repeated. Just do it once. All right, so first it's 1 note at a time like this with a space between. So we practice sharp, flat. Good enough. All right? And that's it. So just walk us through this thing and just choose that 1 bar or whatever, 2 bars.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you had more time, you do like 8 bars or 16
Yeah.
bars or something.
Yeah.
It takes 10 minutes.
Okay.
So just 1 note at a time. Wait. Was that D sharp or E flat or something? That was low, right?
Sure. Yeah, it was flat.
So you have to be honest.
Yeah.
Just if you have your hand in a chair, you know, then your body stays really relaxed. So you don't have
Yeah.
to stay in form. You're just really actually resting.
Yeah.
You know. So go from, what is it, C sharp or something.
Yeah.
Rest. One more time. Is it a little low? Okay, good. Go on.
I'll do the next passage.
Okay, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't. People are gonna go crazy if they listen to us do this for too long.
They're like,
It's like, what's going on? Oh my God, they're doing nothing. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So after you do that through that amount, whatever number of bars, then play it like ba da 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 da, kind of slow, medium slow, and play light like ba da 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 da. So just play those few bars that you were practicing, just like da 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 da, and you're just sort of seeing how it works. You could do it
Yeah.
twice or something. If it's still not good, go back and do the first one more time.
Okay.
If it's good enough, if it's close, then we do the third step. So now play the second step, like ba da 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 da. Great. All right. Yay. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. No problem. So again, you make all these things effortless. So there's no trying for anything really. You're just finding the notes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's great. And she would go, sugar plum, fabulous. I got upset because I found her list of words of compliments. They were on a list, and she would read them. And I thought, hey, that's not fair. That's not funny. I don't trust that. So anyway, so there we have that. Now the next thing you do is you sit there and you play the notes, and each note you add 1 or 2 or 3 vibratos at the most. So dum, like dum, dum, right. And the same thing with if the pitch isn't right, you go back 1 note. Okay, so try that. That's great. So yeah, you're right that most of them were really in tune. Just really take your time so it's not metronomic. So if one's a little low or a little fast, you're not on a railroad train. You just relax. Like I've had to go back and forth between them sometimes like 8 times until it sounded right. So you could be really picky,
Okay.
because it just doesn't matter, Especially nowadays we have time to practice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, we have too much time to practice dangerous. So now, then she would go, sugar plum, that is the best. And you sit there and say, she's messing with me. All right. And then she'd say, okay, now perform it, and you're just going to play those 4 bars or whatever it is. Perform it, just let it fly.
Okay.
Give it a go. Okay, fabulous. How's it feel?
It felt solid.
Yeah. It just lets things fall in, and that and it lets you trust that, your average, your percentage will go up. Yeah. And it's really easy work. It's not hard.
Yeah.
So I think those things might make a huge difference. So have fun with it and have a good summer.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Nice to hear you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Great. What a class. What great performances. Thank you everyone for being here. I know we're over. Ian's been so generous with his time. Does anyone have any questions? Or are we ready to move on with the day, the evening, the afternoon? I'm ready to go practice, except it's like...
Oh, thanks Cecily for having me, and I really enjoyed everyone. Everyone played so well. It's really great, and it's a treat. And thanks for setting all this up. That's a really great thing that you're doing.
It's been a pleasure. Who knew that what was going to be just a little diversion between term would end up going on for 4 months? So,
it's good.
No one has any questions. It looks like I'm not seeing any hands up. I'm seeing some thumbs up from Peter Zazovsky. Thank you, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Thanks. Just a quick thing about the last class of the session, which is that we're going to have a performance celebration, our last class. And I invite past participants, and hopefully our guest teachers will send in a few videos. I'm putting together a program I might make a UK style pub quiz if I'm inspired. But it'll really just be a celebration of the last 4 months. And then hopefully by then I'll be able to announce what I have in store for September, which is, I've got some technical wrinkles to sort out, but I'm super excited about what's to come. So, anything before we call it a day? No? Great. Thank you, Ian. It's amazing
Thanks,
to spend a couple of hours with you. I wish we could do it in person, because I miss you.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody. Good afternoon. Have
Thanks
a great
for coming,
day.
everyone. Good night.
And see you next week. Next week we have Rachel Podger.
Whoa, she's great.
Yeah, Rachel Podger next week. So
Okay.
that's that. All right.
Thanks, Leslie.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Adam. Bye, Hannes. Bye, Amanda.
Great job, guys.